Systemize Your Life, the proven path to an organized and productive life, published by Profound Audiobook. Introduction. Order is not something you find, it is something you build. Every organized life you admire is supported by invisible systems quietly working in the background. They guide decisions, simplify routines, reduce stress, and make progress almost automatic. Without those systems, even the most determined person can feel overwhelmed by clutter, missed deadlines, forgotten responsibilities, and the constant pressure of trying to keep everything together. The problem isn't a lack of effort. The problem is trying to manage life without a reliable framework. In this audiobook, we will discover how to replace chaos with clarity by building simple systems that make every part of life easier to manage. You will learn how to organize your time, your home, your work, your finances, your habits, and even your thoughts without depending on endless motivation or exhausting self-discipline. Instead of constantly asking yourself what to do next, you will create systems that already know the answer. This journey is not about becoming perfectly organized or following complicated productivity methods. It is about designing a life where the right actions become the easiest actions. Small improvements, repeated consistently, have the power to transform ordinary days into extraordinary results. As each system becomes part of your daily routine, you will spend less energy putting out fires and more energy focusing on what truly matters. By the time you reach the end of this audiobook, you will understand that lasting productivity is not built through working harder. It is built through working smarter with systems that quietly support your goals every single day. The organized life you want is not reserved for a select few. It begins the moment you stop relying on chance and start building a better way to live, one simple system at a time. Chapter 1. Expose the hidden chaos running your life. Chaos rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive with flashing lights or loud alarms. Instead, it quietly slips into your life through unfinished tasks, cluttered spaces, forgotten appointments, overflowing inboxes, and the constant feeling that you're always trying to catch up. At first, these things seem small and harmless. You tell yourself you'll organize everything next weekend or clean up when life becomes less busy, but that day rarely comes. Before long, the disorder becomes normal, and you stop noticing how much energy it quietly steals from you every single day. The first step toward an organized and productive life is not buying a planner, downloading another productivity app, or creating a complicated schedule. The first step is seeing your life clearly. You cannot improve what you refuse to examine. Every lasting transformation begins with an honest look at reality, even when that reality feels uncomfortable. This chapter is your invitation to pause, not to judge yourself, but to understand where your life is today. Imagine walking into a room with the lights turned off. You may bump into furniture, trip over objects, and struggle to find the door. The problem isn't the room. The problem is that you cannot see it. Turning on the light doesn't instantly organize the room, but it gives you something far more valuable: awareness. In the same way, exposing the hidden chaos in your life allows you to finally understand what has been slowing you down. Chaos exists in many forms. Sometimes it appears as physical clutter filling your desk, your closet, or your garage. Other times it hides inside your calendar, where every hour is packed, but nothing truly important gets finished. It can live inside your finances through unpaid bills, unnecessary subscriptions, or purchases you barely remember making. It can even exist inside your mind, where unfinished ideas, worries, and responsibilities compete for your attention from the moment you wake up until you fall asleep. Many people assume that being busy means being productive. They move quickly from one task to another, answer messages all day, attend meetings, and constantly feel occupied. Yet when the day ends, they struggle to explain what meaningful progress they actually made. Activity and progress are not the same thing. A life without systems often creates the illusion of movement while quietly preventing real growth. Take Trevor Collins, a commercial photographer whose calendar looked completely full every week. He was constantly traveling to client shoots, editing photos late into the night, and responding to emails at all hours. Friends admired how hard he worked, but Trevor felt exhausted and strangely unproductive. Important files were scattered across different folders, invoices were sent late, equipment checklists existed only in his memory, and small mistakes kept repeating. One afternoon, after forgetting essential camera gear for an important assignment, he realized the problem wasn't his workload, it was the absence of organized systems. That single realization changed how he approached every part of his business. Trevor's story illustrates an important truth. Chaos is often invisible because we become accustomed to it. We adjust our lives around broken routines instead of fixing them. We accept stress as normal. We assume forgetting things is simply part of being busy. We believe overwhelm is the price of ambition, but none of those beliefs are true. Much of the stress people experience each day is created by systems that either don't exist or no longer serve them. As you continue through this audiobook, resist the urge to fix everything at once. The goal today is simply to notice. Pay attention to the moments that frustrate you. Notice the tasks you repeat unnecessarily. Observe where you waste time searching for information, making the same decisions, or recovering from preventable mistakes. These are not personal failures, they are signals pointing toward systems waiting to be built. Remember, organized people are not born with a special talent for keeping life together. They simply learn to replace confusion with clarity, reaction with preparation, and chaos with structure. Once you expose the hidden disorder running your life, you take the first and most important step toward building a future where productivity feels natural, peace replaces overwhelm, and every day becomes easier to manage than the one before. Chapter 2. Replace willpower with reliable systems. Willpower is often praised as the secret behind every great achievement. People admire those who wake up before sunrise, exercise every day, eat healthy meals, stay focused for hours, and consistently finish what they start. From the outside, it appears as though these people simply possess extraordinary self-discipline. But when you look more closely, you'll discover something surprising. Their success is rarely powered by willpower alone. It is supported by systems that make good decisions easier and bad decisions harder. Willpower is like a rechargeable battery. It works well for a while, but it slowly drains throughout the day. Every decision you make, every temptation you resist, and every unexpected problem you solve uses a little of that mental energy. By evening, even simple choices can feel exhausting. This is why someone can confidently promise to eat healthy in the morning, but order fast food after a stressful day. It isn't because they suddenly became lazy, their mental energy simply ran low. A system, however, doesn't depend on how energized or motivated you feel. It gives you a clear path to follow even when your emotions are working against you. Instead of asking yourself, "Do I feel like doing this today?" the system quietly answers, "This is simply what happens next." Think about brushing your teeth. Most days, you don't debate whether you should do it. You don't wait until you feel inspired. It has become part of your routine. The decision has already been made. That is the power of a reliable system. It removes unnecessary choices and turns important actions into normal behavior. Many people spend years trying to become more motivated when what they truly need is a better structure. They buy another planner, watch another motivational video, or promise themselves that next Monday will be different. The excitement lasts a few days, sometimes a few weeks, before life returns to its old patterns. Motivation created the beginning, but without a system, it couldn't create consistency. This is why successful people often appear disciplined even when they don't feel particularly motivated. They have designed their environment and routines so carefully that productive actions require very little mental effort. Their calendar already tells them what to do. Their workspace is already prepared. Their priorities are already decided before distractions appear. Consider Trevor Collins, a commercial photographer who loved his work but constantly struggled with deadlines. Every week began with good intentions. He planned to edit client photos early, organize his files, answer emails promptly, and prepare equipment before each assignment. Yet every project seemed to become urgent at the last minute. He worked late into the night, rushed through editing sessions, forgot small details, and constantly apologized for delays. Trevor believed his biggest problem was a lack of discipline. He blamed himself for procrastinating and promised to work harder. But after months of frustration, he decided to stop focusing on his motivation and examine his process instead. He noticed that every morning began differently. Sometimes he answered emails first. Other days he started editing. Occasionally he spent an hour searching for memory cards, batteries, or client notes. Every day required dozens of decisions before real work even began. By the time he reached his most important task, much of his mental energy had already been spent. So Trevor built simple systems. Every evening he prepared his equipment for the next day. Client folders followed one consistent naming method. Editing sessions were scheduled during the same hours each morning when his concentration was strongest. Emails were answered twice a day instead of constantly interrupting his work. Before every assignment, he followed a printed equipment checklist rather than trusting his memory. Nothing about these changes was dramatic. Yet within a few months, missed deadlines became rare. Stress decreased. Clients noticed his reliability. Most importantly, Trevor no longer depended on waking up feeling motivated. His systems carried him forward even on difficult days. His story reminds us that reliable systems are often built from small improvements rather than major life changes. You don't have to redesign your entire life overnight. Instead, ask yourself a simple question whenever something repeatedly goes wrong. What system would prevent this from happening again? Perhaps you frequently forget appointments. Instead of promising to remember better, create one calendar that holds every commitment. If your mornings always feel rushed, prepare your clothes, meals, and important items the night before. If you struggle to exercise, place your workout clothes where you'll see them first thing in the morning. These small adjustments reduce the need for constant self-control. Another powerful advantage of systems is that they continue working during difficult seasons. Everyone experiences stressful weeks, unexpected setbacks, illness, family responsibilities, or moments when motivation disappears completely. If your success depends entirely on how you feel each day, progress will always be unpredictable. But when your habits are supported by dependable systems, you continue moving forward even when life becomes complicated. Remember, the goal is not to become a stronger person through endless willpower. The goal is to become a wiser person who no longer needs to fight the same battles every day. Every reliable system you build removes one more obstacle between you and the life you want. Over time, these systems quietly transform your daily actions, and those daily actions gradually transform your future. Chapter 3. Eliminate everything that doesn't deserve your energy. Organization often begins in the wrong place. People buy storage boxes before deciding what should actually be stored. They download productivity apps before asking whether every task on their list truly matters. They create complicated schedules to fit in responsibilities they should have let go of long ago. The result is a life that looks more organized on the surface but feels just as overwhelming underneath. Before you organize anything, you must simplify it. Think of a gardener preparing a piece of land. The first job is not planting flowers. It is pulling weeds, clearing rocks, and removing anything that prevents healthy growth. Trying to build an organized life without first removing unnecessary burdens is like planting a beautiful garden in soil filled with weeds. Eventually, the weeds take over. One of the greatest sources of stress is not the number of hours in a day. It is the number of things competing for those hours. Every commitment asks for your attention. Every unfinished project occupies space in your mind. Every unnecessary possession requires care. Every pointless obligation quietly drains energy that could have been invested somewhere more meaningful. Many people believe success comes from adding more goals, more meetings, more hobbies, more responsibilities, more information. But some of the happiest, most productive people succeed because they have learned the power of removing what no longer serves them. Take a moment to imagine carrying a backpack during a long hike. At first, adding one extra item doesn't seem like a problem, then another, then another. Each object feels small by itself, but after several miles, the weight becomes exhausting. You begin slowing down, not because you're weak, but because you're carrying far more than necessary. Life works the same way. You may be carrying projects you no longer care about. You may still be saying yes to invitations out of guilt instead of genuine interest. You may own clothes you never wear, subscribe to services you barely use, or hold on to papers, files, and digital clutter simply because dealing with them feels inconvenient. Individually, none of these seem significant. Together, they create constant friction. Every unnecessary decision also steals valuable mental energy. Consider opening your closet each morning and facing dozens of shirts you rarely wear. The time spent choosing between them may only be a few minutes, but those minutes represent another decision your brain must make before the day has truly begun. Multiply that by hundreds of similar choices throughout the day, and you begin to understand why simple lives often feel lighter. Simplifying is not about owning the fewest possessions or living with strict rules. It is about making room for what truly matters. When you remove distractions, your attention naturally shifts toward your priorities. When you eliminate unnecessary commitments, you create time for meaningful work, healthier relationships, and genuine rest. This principle applies far beyond physical belongings. Look at your calendar. Which meetings consistently produce little value? Which recurring activities leave you feeling drained instead of fulfilled? Which obligations continue only because you've never stopped to question them? Sometimes the most productive decision is not finding time for another task. It is deciding that the task no longer deserves your time at all. The same is true for information. Modern life constantly encourages us to consume more news, more notifications, more videos, more messages, more opinions. Yet information without purpose quickly becomes noise. A mind constantly flooded with unnecessary input struggles to focus on meaningful output. Ask yourself whether every app on your phone deserves a place there. Ask whether every notification truly requires your immediate attention. Ask whether every social media account you follow adds value to your life. Small digital decisions can produce enormous mental freedom. Relationships also deserve thoughtful attention. This doesn't mean abandoning people during difficult times. Instead, it means recognizing the difference between relationships that encourage growth and those that constantly pull you away from the person you're trying to become. Healthy relationships bring energy, wisdom, and encouragement. Unhealthy ones often leave you feeling emotionally exhausted. As you simplify your life, you may feel uncomfortable at first. Letting go always requires courage because familiar clutter often feels safer than empty space. But remember, empty space is not wasted space. It is potential. It is where creativity grows, where peace returns, and where important work finally has room to breathe. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, resist the temptation to immediately become more organized. Pause first and ask a better question. What can I remove? Sometimes solving a problem isn't about creating a new system. Sometimes it's about eliminating the obstacle that made the system necessary in the first place. An organized life is not measured by how much you can successfully manage. It is measured by how clearly you have identified what truly deserves your time, your attention, and your energy. Every unnecessary burden you release makes the essential parts of your life stronger. By choosing less with intention, you create space for more of what truly matters, and that is where lasting productivity begins. Chapter 4. Engineer a day that runs on autopilot. Every productive day begins long before the first task is completed. It begins with a structure. Without one, every morning starts with the same question: what should I do first? That question may seem harmless, but when you ask it over and over again throughout the day, it quietly drains your attention. A day without structure becomes a series of endless decisions, and endless decisions eventually lead to exhaustion. Imagine getting into your car to drive somewhere important without choosing a destination. You might spend hours moving, but you would waste time making turns that lead nowhere. Your day works the same way. If you begin without a clear path, you spend much of your energy deciding where to go instead of actually making progress. Engineering your day does not mean scheduling every minute. Life is too unpredictable for that. Unexpected phone calls, family responsibilities, urgent work, and surprises will always appear. Instead, think of your day as having a dependable framework. A well-designed framework gives you direction while still allowing flexibility. The easiest way to create this framework is by building routines around moments that already happen every day. You wake up, you eat meals, you leave for work or begin working from home. You finish your work day, you prepare for sleep. These moments are natural anchors. Instead of treating every day as something entirely new, connect productive habits to these familiar parts of your routine. For example, instead of saying, "I'll read sometime today," decide that you will read for 15 minutes immediately after breakfast. Instead of hoping you'll plan tomorrow, spend 10 minutes reviewing your schedule before going to bed. By attaching actions to events that already happen, your habits become easier to remember because they no longer depend on perfect timing. Another important principle is protecting your highest energy hours. Everyone has times when their mind feels sharp and other times when concentration naturally fades. Some people think most clearly in the morning. Others reach their peak later in the day. Pay attention to your own rhythm rather than copying someone else's schedule. When your energy is highest, reserve that time for work requiring deep thinking. Write, solve problems, make important decisions, or complete your most valuable tasks. Save routine activities like checking email, organizing files, or returning simple phone calls for periods when your energy naturally declines. Matching your work to your energy allows you to accomplish more without working longer. Consider Mason Everett, an airline mechanic whose schedule changed almost every week. Some days he worked before sunrise, other weeks he finished late at night. He often believed productive routines were impossible because his shifts never stayed the same. Every schedule change disrupted his habits, leaving him feeling disorganized and constantly behind. Eventually, Mason realized he had been trying to build routines around specific clock times instead of building them around consistent events. Rather than exercising at exactly 6 o'clock every morning, he exercised within an hour after waking, regardless of when his shift began. Instead of planning his day at a certain time, he reviewed his priorities immediately after his first cup of coffee. Before leaving home, he always packed tomorrow's meals and checked his work bag using the same short checklist. These routines remained stable even though his work hours constantly changed. Over time, he noticed something surprising. His days felt calmer because he no longer had to invent a new routine every time his schedule shifted. The structure traveled with him. This highlights an important lesson. A good daily system should support your life, not control it. Routines should make life easier, not become another source of stress. If missing one step completely ruins your day, the routine is too fragile. Strong systems allow room for adjustment while still keeping you moving forward. Transitions also deserve attention. Many people lose valuable time moving from one activity to another. They finish one task, become distracted by their phone, remember an unrelated responsibility, and suddenly 30 minutes disappear. Smooth transitions keep your momentum alive. Create simple habits between activities. Before ending your workday, spend 5 minutes organizing your desk. Before starting a new project, write down exactly what success looks like. Before leaving a room, return anything that belongs somewhere else. These tiny actions may seem insignificant, yet they prevent small problems from becoming larger ones later. Your evening routine is equally important because it quietly prepares tomorrow. Lay out your clothes, review your calendar, pack what you'll need, clear your workspace. Write down your most important task for the next day. These actions require only a few minutes, but they remove obstacles before they ever appear. Remember, a productive life is not created by making hundreds of good decisions every day. It is created by making a few good decisions once and allowing them to repeat automatically. When your day follows a dependable rhythm, you spend less time deciding and more time doing. Gradually, what once required discipline becomes routine, and what once felt overwhelming begins to feel natural. That is the quiet power of engineering a day that almost runs itself. Chapter 5. Give every hour a clear mission. Time is one of the few things every person receives in exactly the same amount. Every morning, you are given 24 fresh hours. No one can buy more of them, borrow them, or save them for later. Yet by the end of the day, some people feel accomplished, while others wonder where all the time disappeared. The difference is rarely the number of hours available. It is how intentionally those hours were used. Many people begin their day with a long list of tasks. They move from one item to another, answering emails, returning calls, responding to messages, attending meetings, and solving unexpected problems. They stay busy from morning until evening, yet their most meaningful work often remains unfinished. Being occupied is not the same as being productive. Activity fills time. Purpose gives time value. Imagine boarding a train without knowing its destination. The train may travel quickly, stop at many stations, and cover hundreds of miles, but none of that matters if it isn't taking you where you want to go. In the same way, moving quickly through your day means very little if your attention is constantly pulled toward things that don't deserve it. Every hour should have a mission. That doesn't mean every minute needs to be planned. It means every part of your day should have a clear purpose. When you know why you're doing something, you're far less likely to become distracted by everything else competing for your attention. One of the simplest ways to accomplish this is by identifying your most important task before your day begins. Instead of waking up and deciding what feels urgent, decide in advance what deserves your best effort. Ask yourself one powerful question. If I could complete only one meaningful task today, what would make the biggest difference? That single question forces you to separate what is important from what is merely urgent. Urgent tasks demand immediate attention. Important tasks shape your future. Answering another email may feel urgent. Developing a valuable skill, improving your health, strengthening a relationship, or completing meaningful work may not seem urgent today, but those are often the actions that change your life over time. Planning also becomes easier when you stop treating every task as equally important. Not everything deserves the same amount of time. Some activities create enormous value, while others simply maintain the status quo. Learning to recognize that difference is one of the greatest productivity skills you can develop. Consider dividing your day into blocks of purpose rather than blocks of activity. For example, one period may be dedicated entirely to focused work. Another may be reserved for communication. A different part of the day may be set aside for planning, learning, or personal responsibilities. During each block, give your full attention to that single mission. This approach reduces the mental strain of constantly switching between unrelated tasks. Every time you interrupt yourself to check a notification, answer a message, or begin something new, your brain needs time to regain its previous level of focus. Those small interruptions may seem harmless, but together they quietly consume hours. Protecting your schedule also requires learning the value of realistic planning. Many people create impossible daily plans filled with more work than anyone could reasonably accomplish. When evening arrives, they feel disappointed, even though they worked hard all day. The problem wasn't effort, it was unrealistic expectations. Leave room in your schedule for the unexpected. Delays happen. Conversations last longer than expected. Problems appear without warning. Building small amounts of flexibility into your day allows your plan to survive reality instead of falling apart the first time something changes. Another helpful habit is creating a weekly review. Once each week, step back from your daily responsibilities and look at the bigger picture. Ask yourself whether your time is being invested in the life you actually want to build. Are your daily actions moving you closer to your goals, or are they simply helping you stay busy? This review doesn't need to be complicated. Look at your calendar. Review completed tasks. Notice where your time went. Celebrate progress. Identify distractions. Make small adjustments for the coming week. These regular check-ins prevent weeks from becoming months and months from becoming years without meaningful progress. It's also important to recognize that every yes you give automatically creates a no somewhere else. Saying yes to unnecessary meetings may mean saying no to family dinner. Saying yes to endless scrolling may mean saying no to reading a valuable book. Saying yes to constant interruptions may mean saying no to finishing your most important work. Time is always making these exchanges, whether you notice them or not. Throughout this audiobook, you've learned that systems reduce the need for constant decision-making. Planning your time is one of the strongest systems you can build because it gives every hour a job before distractions have a chance to assign one instead. Remember, the goal isn't to squeeze every possible task into your day. The goal is to make sure the hours you have are spent on what truly matters. When every hour has a clear mission, your days become more intentional, your progress becomes more consistent, and your life begins moving steadily in the direction you've chosen instead of wherever chance happens to take you. Chapter 6. Turn your environment into a silent partner. Every environment is quietly shaping your behavior, whether you notice it or not. The room where you work, the kitchen where you prepare meals, the bedroom where you sleep, and even the home screen of your phone are constantly sending you signals. Some of those signals make good habits easier. Others make distractions almost impossible to resist. If your environment is working against you, every productive choice feels like an uphill battle. But when your environment is designed with intention, it becomes a silent partner that supports you every day. Many people believe productivity comes entirely from determination. They tell themselves they simply need more discipline. Yet imagine trying to write an important report while sitting in a noisy room with a television playing, your phone buzzing every few minutes, and papers scattered across your desk. Even the most disciplined person would struggle to focus. The problem isn't a lack of character, it's a poorly designed environment. Look around the space where you spend most of your time. Without saying a word, it is encouraging certain behaviors. A clean desk invites concentration. A cluttered one invites distraction. A bowl of fresh fruit on the kitchen counter encourages healthy eating. A box of cookies sitting in plain sight encourages something very different. Small details often influence your decisions more than you realize. One of the simplest ways to improve your environment is to reduce friction for good habits. Friction is anything that makes an action more difficult than it needs to be. If your notebook is hidden in a drawer, you're less likely to write. If your exercise equipment is buried in a closet, you'll probably skip the workout. But if the tools you need are already prepared and easy to reach, taking action requires far less effort. The opposite is also true. Increase friction for habits you want to avoid. If your phone constantly distracts you while working, place it in another room. If television keeps stealing your evenings, keep the remote somewhere less convenient. A few extra steps may not seem significant, but they create just enough resistance to interrupt automatic behavior. Organization is not about making everything look perfect. It is about making everything easy to use. Every important item should have a clear home. When you finish using something, returning it should become almost automatic because you already know exactly where it belongs. This simple practice saves countless minutes that would otherwise be spent searching for misplaced objects. Think about how much time people lose every week looking for keys, chargers, important documents, glasses or wallets. Each search may last only a few minutes, but those minutes add up. More importantly, they create unnecessary frustration before the day has even begun. A place for everything is not just an organizing principle. It is a system that protects your attention. Consider Brooke Sinclair, an interior architect known for designing beautiful homes for her clients. Ironically, her own apartment was a constant source of stress. Design samples covered the dining table, unopened mail piled up near the entrance, project notes filled every available surface, and supplies were stored wherever there happened to be space. Each morning began with searching for sketches, measuring tools, client folders, or even her car keys. She often arrived at work already feeling mentally exhausted. Brooke finally decided to treat her own home the same way she treated a client's project. She assigned every item a permanent location, created separate zones for work and relaxation, placed a simple tray near the front door for everyday essentials, and cleared her workspace at the end of each evening. She also removed unnecessary decorations that collected clutter instead of serving a purpose. The changes seemed modest, but their impact was remarkable. Her mornings became calm instead of rushed. She stopped wasting time searching for important items. Her mind felt clearer because her surroundings no longer demanded constant attention. The environment itself began encouraging the habits she wanted instead of creating obstacles she had to overcome. Your digital environment deserves the same care as your physical one. An overloaded desktop filled with random files creates the same confusion as a cluttered office. Hundreds of unread emails make important messages harder to find. Endless notifications interrupt your thinking before your brain has time to settle into meaningful work. Create folders that make sense. Delete files you no longer need. Unsubscribe from emails you never read. Turn off notifications that don't truly deserve your immediate attention. Every small improvement removes another source of mental noise. Lighting, comfort, and even sound also influence your ability to concentrate. A well-lit workspace reduces fatigue. A comfortable chair allows you to stay focused longer. Quiet surroundings or consistent background sound, if you prefer it, help your mind settle into deeper work. These details may seem ordinary, but together they shape how you experience every day. Remember, you don't have to redesign your entire home overnight. Start with one space. It might be your desk, your bedside table, your kitchen counter, or the entrance to your home. Ask yourself one simple question. Does this space make my life easier or harder? Then improve it one small step at a time. An organized environment does more than save time. It reduces stress before stress has a chance to grow. It quietly guides your attention toward what matters most. Over time, your surroundings stop competing for your energy and begin protecting it instead. That is the true purpose of organization, not creating a perfect space, but creating a space that helps you become your best self without having to think about it every single day. Chapter 7. Remove friction from everyday decisions. Every day, your mind makes hundreds of decisions. Some are important, like choosing how to spend your time or solving a difficult problem. Others seem so small that you hardly notice them. What should you wear? What should you eat? Should you check your email now or later? Where did you leave your keys? Which task should you start first? One by one, these choices appear harmless. Together, they quietly consume your attention. The surprising truth is that your brain doesn't always become tired because you're working hard. Often, it becomes tired because it is constantly making decisions. every choice requires a little mental effort. The more unnecessary decisions you make, the less energy you have for the decisions that truly matter. Think of your attention as a limited resource. You begin each day with a full supply, but every decision takes a small portion away. If you spend your morning deciding dozens of minor things, you may find it much harder to concentrate when it's finally time to tackle your most important work. This is why systems are so powerful. They eliminate repeated decisions by turning them into routines. Instead of asking yourself the same questions every day, you answer them once and allow the answer to repeat automatically. You stop negotiating with yourself because the decision has already been made. Consider something as simple as preparing for tomorrow before going to bed. If your clothes are ready, your bag is packed, and your schedule has already been reviewed, your morning begins with action instead of hesitation. You don't waste precious energy deciding where to begin because your system has already decided for you. Many successful people understand this principle, even if they never describe it using the word system. They simplify repeated choices whenever possible. They eat similar breakfasts, follow consistent morning routines, schedule recurring tasks on the same days each week, and keep important items in predictable places. These habits are not boring. They are freeing because they protect mental energy for creative thinking, meaningful conversations, and important decisions. Imagine walking into a grocery store without a shopping list. You wander through every aisle, trying to remember what you need. Along the way, you buy things that weren't necessary and forget items that actually mattered. Now compare that with entering the same store carrying a simple list. You move with confidence because every decision has already been made before you arrived. Life works much the same way. When you know what matters before distractions appear, you become far less likely to waste time reacting to whatever happens next. One of the easiest ways to remove friction is by creating default choices. A default is simply your normal response, unless there is a good reason to do something different. For example, you might decide that every Sunday evening is your weekly planning session. Every weekday begins by working on your highest priority task before opening your inbox. Bills are paid on the same day each month. Groceries are purchased on one consistent day every week. These defaults eliminate uncertainty. Instead of repeatedly asking yourself when something should happen, you already know. Checklists are another powerful tool. Many people believe checklists are only useful for pilots, surgeons, or engineers. In reality, they can simplify everyday life. A travel checklist prevents forgotten items. A shopping checklist prevents unnecessary purchases. A cleaning checklist keeps your home organized without requiring you to remember every detail. A workday shutdown checklist helps you leave the office knowing nothing important has been overlooked. The beauty of a checklist is that it allows your memory to rest. Your brain is designed to think, solve problems, and create ideas. It was never meant to remember dozens of small details every single day. When you trust a reliable checklist, you free your mind for higher value work. Another useful practice is grouping similar decisions together. Instead of responding to emails every few minutes, answer them during one scheduled period. Instead of making several small trips to run errands throughout the week, combine them into one outing. Instead of constantly switching between unrelated tasks, complete similar work in focused blocks. This reduces the mental cost of changing directions over and over again. You'll also notice that many frustrating moments come from predictable problems that repeat themselves. Perhaps you're always searching for your phone charger. Maybe you frequently run out of household essentials or forget to refill your water bottle before leaving home. These are not random accidents. They are signals telling you a simple system is missing. Whenever you find yourself thinking, "This keeps happening," pause and ask a different question. Don't ask, "How can I remember better?" Ask, "What system would make remembering unnecessary?" That small shift in thinking changes everything. Instead of depending on memory, you begin depending on design. As your systems grow stronger, life starts to feel lighter. Small tasks require less effort. Daily routines become smoother. Your attention is no longer scattered across countless tiny decisions. Instead, it is available for the people you love, the goals you're pursuing, and the work that truly deserves your best thinking. Remember, productivity isn't about making faster decisions. It's about making fewer, unnecessary ones. Every decision your system removes is a gift of time, focus, and mental energy. Over weeks, months, and years, those saved moments compound into something remarkable. A life that feels calmer, clearer, and far more intentional, because your systems are quietly carrying the weight that your mind no longer has to bear. Chapter 8. Empty your mind without losing an idea. Your mind is a remarkable place for creating ideas, solving problems, and imagining possibilities. But it was never designed to be a storage room. The more information you try to keep in your head, the harder it becomes to think clearly. Every appointment you hope to remember, every unfinished task you mentally repeat, and every idea you're afraid of forgetting quietly competes for your attention. Before long, your mind feels crowded, not because life is impossible, but because you're asking your brain to do a job it was never meant to do. Have you ever been working on something important when a random thought suddenly interrupted you? Maybe you remembered a bill that needed to be paid, a phone call you forgot to return, or an item you needed from the grocery store. You stopped what you were doing because you were afraid you might forget. A few minutes later, another thought appeared, then another. Eventually, your concentration disappeared, even though you never actually left your chair. This is how mental clutter works. It rarely arrives all at once. It builds quietly through dozens of small reminders your brain keeps repeating because it doesn't trust that you'll remember them later. Imagine trying to carry 20 books in your arms while walking through a crowded hallway. You might manage for a while, but eventually something will fall. Now imagine placing those books on a sturdy shelf. Suddenly your hands are free again. The books still exist, but they are no longer weighing you down. Your thoughts deserve the same treatment. One of the simplest habits you can develop is capturing every important thought outside your mind. Whenever an idea appears, write it down. Whenever someone gives you a responsibility, record it immediately. Whenever you think of something you need to buy, schedule, fix, or remember, place it into a trusted system instead of asking your memory to hold it. The key word here is trusted. If you write reminders on random pieces of paper, save notes in 5 different apps, email yourself occasionally, and keep some information only in your head, your brain never fully relaxes. It continues reminding you because it doesn't trust your system. But when every important thought goes into one reliable place, your mind gradually learns that it no longer needs to carry everything by itself. This trusted system doesn't need to be complicated. It could be a notebook you carry everywhere, a simple notes application on your phone, or a digital task manager you use consistently. The tool matters far less than the habit of using it every single time. Consider Grant Holloway, a cybersecurity consultant responsible for protecting the computer systems of several large companies. His work required him to remember meetings, security updates, client requests, project deadlines, and technical ideas throughout the day. He believed keeping everything in his head made him more efficient. In reality, it made him constantly anxious. While speaking with one client, he often worried about forgetting something promised to another. During family dinners, unfinished work kept replaying in his thoughts. Even when relaxing at home, his mind refused to slow down because it was still trying to remember dozens of responsibilities. Eventually, Grant changed one simple habit. Every idea, task, commitment, and reminder immediately went into one organized digital system. At the beginning and end of each workday, he reviewed that system instead of relying on memory. Within weeks, he noticed something unexpected. His memory hadn't become weaker, his thinking had become clearer. Because his brain no longer carried every detail, it finally had room to solve bigger problems. Grant's experience teaches an important lesson. Writing things down is not a sign of forgetfulness, it is a sign of wisdom. It allows your mind to focus on creating solutions instead of constantly protecting information. Another useful practice is the brain dump. At the end of a busy day or whenever your thoughts feel scattered, take a blank sheet of paper and write down everything occupying your mind. Don't organize it, don't judge it, simply empty it. Tasks, worries, ideas, conversations, errands, goals, questions, put them all on paper. This simple exercise often creates immediate relief because your brain no longer feels responsible for holding everything at once. Once the thoughts are visible, you can organize them calmly instead of carrying them everywhere. It's also important to separate ideas from actions. Not every interesting thought requires immediate attention. Some ideas belong on a future projects list. Others belong in a journal for later reflection. Some simply need to be acknowledged before letting them go. When every thought automatically becomes today's priority, your schedule quickly becomes impossible to manage. Reviewing your notes regularly is just as important as capturing them. A trusted system only remains trustworthy if you return to it consistently. Spend a few minutes each morning reviewing your tasks. At the end of the day, update your list, remove completed items, and prepare for tomorrow. This habit creates confidence because you always know where your responsibilities are waiting. Remember, peace of mind doesn't come from having fewer responsibilities. It comes from knowing those responsibilities are safely organized. Every idea has a home. Every task has a place. Every commitment has been captured. When your mind is free from the burden of remembering everything, it becomes available for what it does best, to think clearly, solve creatively, and fully experience the present moment. Chapter 9. Make good habits, the path of least resistance. Every system eventually depends on habits. You can create the perfect plan, organize your calendar, clean your workspace, and set ambitious goals. But if your daily habits don't support those systems, they slowly begin to fall apart. On the other hand, when your habits and your systems work together, progress begins to feel almost effortless. The right actions become your normal actions. Many people think habits are built through determination. They imagine that successful people wake up every morning feeling excited to do difficult things. The reality is much simpler. Good habits usually survive because they are easy to begin, not because they require extraordinary discipline. Think about water flowing downhill. It naturally follows the path with the least resistance. Human behavior often works the same way. You naturally move toward whatever is easiest in the moment. If healthy food is prepared and waiting in your refrigerator, you're more likely to eat it. If your running shoes are already by the front door, exercising feels like the obvious next step. But if every good habit requires extra effort, while every distraction is immediately available, your environment quietly pulls you away from your goals. This is why building better habits is often less about changing yourself and more about changing the conditions around you. Instead of asking, "How can I become more disciplined?" ask, "How can I make the right choice easier?" Small actions are far more powerful than dramatic changes. Many people fail because they begin with expectations that are simply too large. They promise themselves they will exercise for 2 hours every day, read 50 books this year, completely reorganize their home in one weekend, or wake up at dawn after years of sleeping late. Such goals create excitement at first, but they are difficult to sustain. Strong habits grow differently. They begin so small that skipping them feels harder than doing them. Reading 1 page becomes 10 pages. Walking for 5 minutes becomes a daily workout. Spending 3 minutes organizing your desk becomes a workspace that stays clean every day. Small beginnings create consistency, and consistency creates confidence. One helpful strategy is to connect a new habit to an existing one. Since your current habits already happen automatically, they provide a reliable place to attach something new. For example, after brushing your teeth, you might spend 2 minutes reviewing your schedule. After lunch, you might take a short walk. Before turning off the lights at night, you might prepare everything you'll need for tomorrow morning. These connections reduce the need to remember because one habit naturally reminds you of the next. Instead of building isolated routines, you create a chain of actions that flow smoothly together. Another important principle is making progress visible. Your brain enjoys seeing evidence that you're moving forward. Crossing completed tasks off a list, marking days on a calendar, or checking off a simple habit tracker provides a small sense of accomplishment. While these actions may seem minor, they reinforce the identity you're trying to build. Notice that the goal is not perfection. Missing one day does not erase your progress. Everyone experiences interruptions. Vacations, illness, unexpected responsibilities, and difficult seasons are part of life. What matters is returning to your system quickly instead of allowing one missed habit to become a permanent pattern. Many people become discouraged because they focus too much on results and too little on repetition. Imagine planting a tree. You wouldn't dig it up every week to see whether the roots are growing. You water it consistently because you trust that growth is happening beneath the surface. Habits develop in much the same way. Their greatest changes are often invisible at first. It's also useful to remove temptation instead of constantly fighting it. If you're trying to spend less time on your phone, don't rely only on self-control. Turn off unnecessary notifications, move distracting apps off your home screen, or leave your phone in another room while working. Every obstacle you place in front of a bad habit makes it slightly less attractive. Likewise, reward yourself by noticing the immediate benefits of good habits. Organizing your desk doesn't just create a cleaner workspace tomorrow, it gives you a calmer feeling today. Preparing healthy meals doesn't only support long-term health, it reduces stress when you're hungry later. Looking for these immediate rewards helps your brain associate positive feelings with productive behavior. As your habits strengthen, something remarkable begins to happen. The actions that once required conscious effort become part of who you are. You stop thinking of yourself as someone trying to be organized. You become an organized person. You stop trying to manage your time better. You naturally protect your time because that's how you now live. Remember, every habit is a vote for the person you're becoming. One habit alone may seem insignificant, just as one drop of water seems too small to fill a bucket. But day after day, those small actions accumulate. They quietly shape your character, strengthen your systems, and determine the direction of your life. The purpose of building habits is not to make life more rigid. It is to make good choices so natural that they require very little effort. When the path of least resistance leads toward your goals instead of away from them, productivity stops feeling like a struggle. It becomes your default way of living, and your systems begin carrying you forward even when motivation is nowhere to be found. Chapter 10. Put your money on a predictable path. Money creates the greatest peace of mind when it follows a system instead of depending on memory. Many financial problems don't begin because people earn too little. They begin because money moves without a clear plan. Bills are paid whenever someone remembers. Savings happen only if something is left over at the end of the month. Purchases are made without thinking about long-term goals. Little by little, financial stress begins to grow, not because of one major mistake, but because there is no dependable system guiding everyday decisions. An organized financial life is not about becoming obsessed with every dollar. It is about creating simple routines that remove uncertainty. When you know where your money is going, what your priorities are, and how your future is being prepared, financial decisions become much less stressful. Think of your finances as a river. A river without banks spreads in every direction, losing its strength and purpose. But when clear boundaries guide the flow, the water moves with power and consistency. Your financial systems serve as those banks. They give every dollar a direction before it has a chance to disappear. One of the most valuable habits you can develop is deciding where your money will go before you receive it. Instead of spending first and saving whatever remains, reverse the process. Create a plan that reflects your priorities. Once your essential expenses, savings, and long-term goals have been accounted for, you can enjoy the remaining money with far greater confidence because you know the important decisions have already been made. This approach removes guilt from spending. Too many people feel anxious every time they buy something because they have no clear picture of their finances. They wonder whether they should be spending less or saving more. A simple financial system answers those questions in advance. Organization also means knowing exactly what you own and what you owe. Keep your important financial information together. Store bank information, insurance documents, tax records, and other essential paperwork in one organized location. Whether you prefer digital files or physical folders, consistency matters more than complexity. If you ever need an important document, you should know exactly where to find it. Another helpful habit is reviewing your finances regularly. You don't need to check every hour or even every day. In fact, doing so often creates unnecessary worry. Instead, choose one consistent time each week or month to review your accounts, upcoming bills, recent spending, and progress toward your goals. These regular reviews allow you to notice small problems before they become expensive ones. Consider Claire Donovan, a dental hygienist with a steady income and a comfortable lifestyle. She worked hard, paid her bills on time, and rarely made extravagant purchases. Yet at the end of every month, she found herself wondering where her money had gone. Unexpected expenses always seemed to appear, her savings barely grew, and she often delayed financial decisions because they felt overwhelming. Claire believed she needed to earn more money. But after looking closely at her finances, she discovered that her biggest problem wasn't her income. It was the absence of a system. She created automatic transfers that moved part of every paycheck into savings before she had a chance to spend it. She scheduled recurring bill payments so nothing was forgotten. Once a week, she spent 15 minutes reviewing her accounts and upcoming expenses. She also organized all of her financial documents into clearly labeled folders that were easy to access whenever she needed them. Within a year, Claire noticed something remarkable. She wasn't constantly thinking about money anymore. The systems quietly handled much of the work. Her savings steadily increased, surprise bills became easier to manage, and financial decisions no longer felt emotional because she had already created a clear plan. Claire's experience reminds us that consistency often matters more than income alone. A predictable system can create stability even before your earnings increase. It's equally important to prepare for the unexpected. Life will always include surprises, a car repair, a medical expense, a broken appliance, or another unexpected cost. These events become crises only when there is no plan for handling them. Setting aside money regularly for unexpected expenses creates confidence because you know your system has already anticipated life's uncertainties. Another powerful financial habit is delaying unnecessary purchases. Instead of buying something immediately because it catches your attention, give yourself time to think. A simple waiting period often reveals whether the purchase supports your goals or merely satisfies a temporary impulse. Many unnecessary expenses disappear once excitement has time to fade. Remember that every dollar has a purpose. Some dollars meet today's needs, others build tomorrow's opportunities. When you intentionally assign each dollar a job, money becomes a tool rather than a source of constant uncertainty. Financial organization isn't about becoming perfect or never making mistakes. It is about creating reliable systems that keep moving you in the right direction. Over time, these small routines compound just like every other system you've built throughout this audiobook. They reduce stress, increase confidence, and allow your money to quietly support the life you want to build. A predictable financial path doesn't happen by accident. It is created one thoughtful decision at a time, repeated consistently until managing money becomes as natural as any other healthy habit. When your finances operate through dependable systems instead of constant guesswork, you gain something more valuable than wealth alone. You gain peace of mind. Chapter 11. Defend your attention like your greatest asset. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Unlike money, you cannot earn more of it. Unlike lost possessions, you cannot replace it once it has been spent. Every moment of focused attention becomes part of your work, your relationships, your health, and your future. Every moment of unnecessary distraction quietly steals from those same areas. That is why learning to protect your attention is not just a productivity skill, it is a life skill. Distractions rarely appear as obvious enemies. They often arrive disguised as harmless interruptions. A quick glance at your phone becomes 20 minutes of scrolling. A single email leads to another, then another, until the work you intended to finish is forgotten. A notification appears while you're concentrating, and although it only takes a few seconds to read, your mind may need several minutes to fully return to the task you left behind. This is how attention is lost, not all at once, but one interruption at a time. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with water while small holes leak from the bottom. You keep pouring in more water, yet the bucket never fills because it is constantly draining. Your attention works in a similar way. You may dedicate hours to work, but if your focus is interrupted every few minutes, much of your effort quietly disappears. Many people believe they are good at multitasking. They proudly switch between conversations, messages, emails, meetings, and important projects throughout the day. But in reality, the human brain doesn't truly perform several demanding tasks at once. Instead, it rapidly shifts from one task to another. Every shift comes with a hidden cost. Your concentration weakens, mistakes become more common, and work takes longer to complete. Protecting your attention begins by recognizing what deserves it. Not every message requires an immediate reply. Not every notification deserves your curiosity. Not every request deserves your time. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is learning to pause before reacting. Instead of immediately responding to every interruption, ask yourself a simple question. Does this deserve my attention right now? That one question creates a space between the interruption and your response. Sometimes the answer will be yes. Often it will be no. Those small moments of awareness allow you to stay in control instead of allowing distractions to control you. Creating boundaries is another essential part of protecting attention. Boundaries are not walls that isolate you from others. They are guidelines that help you use your time intentionally. You might decide that your phone stays out of reach during focused work. You might check email only at specific times instead of constantly refreshing your inbox. You might reserve certain hours for uninterrupted thinking while letting others know you will respond afterward. At first, these boundaries may feel uncomfortable because many distractions have become habits. You may instinctively reach for your phone without realizing it. You may feel tempted to check messages simply because your mind is searching for something easier than the work in front of you. This is completely normal. Habits formed over years do not disappear overnight, but every time you choose focus instead of distraction, you strengthen your ability to concentrate. Your environment can also help protect your attention. A quiet workspace reduces unnecessary interruptions. Closing unused tabs on your computer removes visual distractions. Keeping only the materials needed for your current task prevents your eyes and mind from wandering. Even small changes, like placing your phone face down or turning off unnecessary notifications, can dramatically improve your ability to stay engaged. It is equally important to recognize that your attention needs rest. Many people believe working longer automatically produces better results. Yet a tired mind struggles to focus, solve problems, and make thoughtful decisions. Short breaks taken at the right time often increase productivity far more than forcing yourself to continue while mentally exhausted. Rest is not the enemy of productivity. It is one of its greatest supporters. Pay attention to how you begin your day as well. The first hour often sets the tone for everything that follows. If your morning immediately fills with news, social media, emails, and notifications, your mind starts reacting before it has a chance to think independently. But if you begin with planning, reading, exercise, reflection, or your most important work, you establish a sense of direction before the world begins competing for your attention. Another helpful practice is finishing one task before beginning another. Unfinished work creates mental tension. Every incomplete task quietly asks for your attention, making it harder to fully concentrate on whatever comes next. Completing one meaningful piece of work before moving to another creates a satisfying sense of progress and keeps your mind from becoming scattered. Remember that attention follows intention. If you don't decide where your attention will go, someone else will gladly decide for you. Advertisements, notifications, entertainment, and endless streams of information are all competing for the same limited resource. The more intentionally you protect it, the more control you gain over your days. An organized life is not simply about keeping your desk clean or your calendar orderly. It is about protecting your ability to focus on what matters most. Every distraction you remove gives your attention room to grow stronger. Every boundary you establish creates more space for meaningful work. And every moment of deep focus becomes another building block in the organized, productive, and purposeful life you are creating through the systems you've chosen to build. Chapter 12. Build systems that never break under pressure. Life does not always follow your plans. Some weeks unfold exactly as expected, while others seem determined to test your patience. Deadlines suddenly move closer, family responsibilities increase, unexpected repairs appear, illness interrupts your routine, travel changes your schedule. During these seasons, many carefully built habits begin to disappear, not because you no longer care, but because your systems were designed only for perfect conditions. The true strength of a system is not measured on an easy day. It is measured on a difficult one. Anyone can stay organized when life feels calm and predictable. The real challenge comes when everything seems to happen at once. These are the moments when people often abandon their routines completely. They stop exercising because work becomes busy. They stop planning because every day feels unpredictable. They stop organizing because they believe they'll return to it later. Unfortunately, later often becomes much later. Instead of building systems that depend on ideal circumstances, build systems that survive real life. Think about a bridge built to cross a river. Engineers don't design it only for sunny days. They expect heavy rain, strong winds, changing temperatures, and years of constant use. The bridge remains dependable because it was designed with pressure in mind. Your personal systems should be built the same way. One of the simplest ways to make a system stronger is to make it flexible. Many people unknowingly create routines that are too rigid. They decide they will exercise for 1 full hour every morning. They promise to read 30 pages every evening. They schedule every minute of their day without leaving room for unexpected events. As soon as life changes, the entire routine collapses. A stronger approach is to create a minimum version of every important habit. If you cannot complete your full workout, take a 15-minute walk. If you don't have time to read 30 pages, read 5. If your evening routine becomes impossible because you arrive home late, spend just a few minutes preparing for tomorrow. Small actions may seem insignificant, but they keep the habit alive. Once the habit disappears completely, restarting becomes much harder. Consistency matters more than intensity. Another powerful strategy is identifying your non-negotiables. These are the few habits that remain in place no matter how busy life becomes. They don't need to be numerous. In fact, having too many defeats the purpose. Choose the actions that protect every other part of your life. Perhaps your non-negotiables include reviewing tomorrow's schedule before bed, keeping your workspace organized at the end of the day, getting enough sleep whenever possible, or spending a few quiet minutes planning your priorities each morning. These simple routines become anchors that keep your life stable when everything else feels uncertain. Consider Wesley Mercer, a regional sales director whose work required frequent travel across several states. Some weeks he spent more nights in hotels than at home. At the same time, he and his wife were raising 2 young children, making family life just as demanding as his career. For years, Wesley believed every business trip destroyed his routines. He skipped workouts, ignored his planning system, allowed emails to pile up, and returned home feeling as though he needed another week just to recover. Every trip seemed to erase the progress he had made before leaving. Eventually, Wesley stopped trying to recreate his normal schedule while traveling. Instead, he built a travel version of his systems. His morning routine became 10 simple minutes instead of an hour. He packed healthy snacks before every trip to avoid relying on fast food. Every evening, regardless of which city he was in, he reviewed the next day's appointments and prepared his materials before going to sleep. When he returned home, he followed a simple reset checklist that helped him quickly return to his regular routine. These adjustments were not complicated, but they changed everything. Travel no longer disrupted his life because his systems had learned to adapt. Rather than breaking under pressure, they adjusted to meet the circumstances. Wesley's story reminds us that resilience is more valuable than perfection. A flexible system continues moving forward even when conditions are less than ideal. Another important principle is expecting interruptions instead of being surprised by them. Many people become discouraged whenever life disrupts their plans, as though setbacks should never happen. But interruptions are part of life. The more you expect them, the less power they have over you. When a busy week arrives, don't ask, "Why is this happening?" Ask, "How can my system adjust?" That single question changes your mindset. Instead of feeling defeated, you become a problem solver. You stop protecting a perfect schedule and begin protecting your progress. Recovery systems are just as important as productive systems. After a stressful period, avoid trying to fix everything in one day. Start small. Organize one room, review 1 week's calendar, rebuild one habit. Momentum returns much faster when you focus on one step instead of everything at once. Remember that organized people are not those who never experience chaos. They are the people who know how to recover from it quickly. Their systems bend without breaking. They simplify when life becomes complicated. They adjust without giving up. They understand that progress is not about avoiding difficult seasons, but about continuing to move forward through them. When your systems are designed to survive pressure, you no longer fear busy weeks or unexpected changes. You trust that no matter what life brings, your routines will help you regain your balance, and that confidence is one of the greatest forms of organization you can ever build. Chapter 13. Upgrade your systems before problems return. No system stays perfect forever. A routine that worked well a year ago may no longer fit your life today. Your responsibilities change. Your career grows, your family expands, your goals evolve, even your interests shift over time. If your systems never change with you, they slowly become outdated. What once made life easier can eventually begin creating unnecessary frustration. This is why organization is never a one-time project. It is an ongoing practice of observation, adjustment, and improvement. Many people only examine their systems after something goes wrong. They wait until they miss an important deadline, lose an important document, forget a commitment, or feel completely overwhelmed. Then they rush to fix the problem. While there's nothing wrong with solving problems, there is an even better approach. Improve your systems before they begin to fail. Imagine owning a car. You don't wait until the engine stops working before changing the oil or checking the tires. Regular maintenance prevents larger problems from appearing. The same principle applies to every system in your life. Small improvements made consistently prevent major disruptions later. One of the most valuable habits you can build is setting aside time to review how your systems are actually working. Not how you hope they're working, not how they worked 6 months ago, how they're working today. Ask yourself simple but honest questions. Which routines save me time? Which ones create unnecessary work? What keeps getting delayed? Where do I repeatedly become frustrated? What problem have I solved more than once? Every repeated frustration is usually a sign that a system needs attention. Pay close attention to anything that keeps happening. If you're constantly searching for files, your filing system needs improvement. If your mornings always feel rushed, your evening routine probably needs adjustment. If your calendar is always overloaded, your planning system may need stronger priorities. The goal isn't to blame yourself. The goal is to redesign the process. This way of thinking changes how you see mistakes. Instead of saying, "I'm terrible at remembering appointments," you begin asking, "Why does my reminder system keep failing?" Instead of saying, "I'm always running late," you ask, "What part of my routine creates unnecessary delays?" This shift moves your attention away from self-criticism and toward practical solutions. Another useful habit is removing unnecessary complexity whenever possible. Systems often become complicated over time because people continue adding new rules without removing old ones. Before long, even simple routines begin feeling difficult to maintain. Whenever you improve a system, look for opportunities to simplify it. Can 2 steps become 1? Can something be automated? Can a checklist replace memory? Can a recurring task be scheduled instead of repeatedly deciding when to do it? Simpler systems are usually stronger because they are easier to repeat. It's also helpful to measure progress using meaningful questions rather than unrealistic expectations. Instead of asking whether your life is perfectly organized, ask whether today's system works better than last month's. Progress is built through steady improvement, not instant transformation. Remember that success leaves clues. Whenever something goes especially well, stop and examine why. Did your morning feel calm because you prepared the night before? Did a project finish early because you planned it more carefully? Did you stay focused because you protected your attention? Good outcomes deserve just as much attention as problems because they reveal systems worth repeating. Don't overlook the importance of seasonal reviews either. Different times of the year often require different systems. The routines that support you during a busy work season may not fit a family vacation. A new job, a move to a different home, or changing personal goals may require adjustments to your schedule, habits, and priorities. Flexibility allows your systems to continue serving you instead of becoming obstacles. Another valuable question to ask is, what feels harder than it should? Sometimes we accept unnecessary difficulty simply because we've become accustomed to it. Perhaps paying bills involves searching through multiple accounts every month. Maybe preparing meals requires constant last-minute grocery trips. Maybe your digital files have become so disorganized that finding one document takes several minutes. These frustrations are opportunities waiting to become better systems. Don't be afraid to retire systems that no longer work. People often continue using routines simply because they've always done things that way. But organization is not about protecting old habits. It is about supporting your current life. If a system no longer helps you, thank it for what it once provided and replace it with something better. As you improve your systems, remember to make changes gradually. Trying to redesign your entire life in one weekend usually creates more stress than progress. Focus on one improvement at a time. Test it, refine it. Once it becomes natural, move on to the next. Small adjustments repeated over months create results that dramatic changes rarely sustain. The organized life isn't built by creating flawless systems. It is built by creating systems that continue improving. Every review strengthens your foundation. Every adjustment removes friction. Every lesson learned becomes part of a better process. In the end, your greatest advantage isn't having the perfect routine. It's becoming the kind of person who regularly observes, learns, and improves. When you adopt that mindset, your systems never become outdated because they grow alongside you. And as your systems improve, so does every area of your life they quietly support. Chapter 14. Make organization your new identity. Organization is not something you do once your life finally becomes less busy. It is not a project you complete and cross off your list forever. It is a way of living. The greatest transformation happens when you stop seeing organization as a collection of tasks and begin seeing it as part of who you are. At that point, your systems no longer feel like rules you must follow. They become natural expressions of the person you have chosen to become. Many people spend years saying, "I'm trying to be more organized." While that sounds positive, those words also reveal something important. The person still sees organization as something outside of themselves. They are chasing it rather than living it. A small shift in identity changes everything. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to stay organized," you begin saying, "I am someone who builds systems." That simple change influences hundreds of daily decisions without you even realizing it. Think about someone who considers themselves a careful driver. They don't remind themselves every few minutes to stop at red lights or stay within the speed limit. Their identity naturally guides their behavior. In the same way, when you begin identifying as an organized person, returning items to their proper place, planning your week, reviewing your priorities, and maintaining your routines no longer feel like extra work. They simply become part of how you live. This shift does not happen overnight. Identity is built through repeated actions. Every time you organize your workspace before leaving for the day, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who values order. Every time you prepare for tomorrow before going to bed, you strengthen that identity. Every system you follow becomes evidence supporting the person you are becoming. Notice that the opposite is also true. Every time you tell yourself, "I'm just a disorganized person," your brain begins searching for evidence to prove that statement true. One forgotten appointment or one messy room suddenly feels like confirmation that you cannot change. But identity should never be built from isolated moments. It should be built from the direction you consistently choose. Throughout this audiobook, you've learned how to expose hidden chaos, replace willpower with systems, simplify your life, create dependable routines, manage your time, organize your environment, reduce unnecessary decisions, capture your thoughts, build strong habits, manage your finances, protect your attention, prepare for difficult seasons, and improve your systems over time. These are not separate lessons. Together, they form a complete way of living. When these principles begin working together, something remarkable happens. You stop solving the same problems repeatedly because your systems prevent many of those problems from appearing in the first place. Your mornings become calmer because they were prepared the night before. Your work becomes more focused because distractions have already been reduced. Your finances become less stressful because every dollar already has a purpose. Your mind becomes clearer because your responsibilities live in trusted systems instead of constantly circling through your thoughts. This is the quiet power of identity. You no longer organize because someone told you it was a good idea. You organize because it reflects the kind of life you want to create. It's also important to understand that organized people are not perfect people. They still forget things occasionally. Their desks become messy during busy projects. Unexpected events disrupt their routines. They make mistakes just like everyone else. The difference is not that they avoid disorder forever. The difference is that they know how to recover quickly. When something falls apart, they don't assume they have failed. They simply return to their systems. They clean one space instead of worrying about the entire house. They review tomorrow's priorities instead of becoming overwhelmed by the entire month. They rebuild one habit instead of waiting for the perfect Monday to start again. This mindset removes unnecessary pressure. You don't need flawless consistency. You need dependable recovery. Every time you return to your systems after an interruption, you strengthen them. Every time you begin again, you reinforce the identity you are building. Another important habit is celebrating quiet victories. Society often celebrates dramatic achievements, a promotion, a business success, or a major milestone, but organized lives are built through much smaller victories that rarely receive attention. Preparing your meals for the week, filing important documents immediately, reviewing your calendar every Sunday, finishing today's work before starting tomorrow's. These ordinary actions may never attract applause, yet they create extraordinary results over time. Remember that every organized day becomes the foundation for the next one. Each small decision makes future decisions easier. Each completed routine builds confidence. Each reliable system reduces stress. These improvements may seem almost invisible from one day to the next, but over months and years they transform how you experience life. As you move forward, don't measure your success by how perfectly you follow every routine. Measure it by how naturally your systems support your values. When organization becomes part of your identity, productivity no longer depends on constant motivation. Your systems quietly guide your actions, your habits strengthen your character, and your daily choices begin reflecting the life you truly want to live. In the end, becoming organized is not about owning better planners, following stricter schedules, or filling every hour with activity. It is about becoming the kind of person who intentionally creates order where there was once confusion, clarity where there was once uncertainty, and purpose where there was once distraction. That identity is one of the greatest systems you will ever build because it continues shaping every decision long after the planning is finished. Chapter 15. Let your systems build the life you envision. Every meaningful journey eventually reaches a moment of reflection. As you look back on everything you've learned in this audiobook, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. A well-lived life is rarely built through extraordinary effort. It is built through ordinary actions repeated with extraordinary consistency. The systems you create today become the invisible foundation beneath the life you experience tomorrow. Many people spend years waiting for the perfect opportunity to change. They tell themselves they'll become organized when work slows down, when life becomes less stressful, or when they finally feel motivated. But life rarely pauses long enough to make change convenient. The people who make lasting progress don't wait for ideal conditions. They improve their systems within the life they already have. Think about a building rising one brick at a time. No single brick looks impressive by itself. Yet every brick has a purpose. Remove enough of them, and the building becomes weak. Place them carefully day after day, and eventually they create something strong enough to last for generations. Your daily systems work the same way. Preparing for tomorrow, reviewing your priorities, keeping your environment organized, protecting your attention, and following simple routines may seem ordinary in isolation. Together, they build an extraordinary life. One of the greatest rewards of living through systems is freedom. At first, some people worry that routines will make life feel rigid or repetitive. In reality, the opposite is true. Systems handle the ordinary parts of life, so your mind is free to enjoy the extraordinary ones. When you no longer waste energy searching for lost items, remembering forgotten tasks, or constantly deciding what to do next, you have more attention available for creativity, meaningful relationships, learning, and experiences that truly matter. Imagine waking up each morning without feeling behind before the day has even begun. Imagine knowing exactly where important documents are located. Imagine trusting that your bills will be paid on time, your schedule is organized, your priorities are clear, and your habits are carrying you steadily toward your goals. This kind of confidence doesn't come from luck. It grows from reliable systems that quietly support your life every single day. Remember that systems are meant to serve you, not control you. If a routine becomes unnecessarily complicated, simplify it. If a process no longer fits your life, improve it. If your circumstances change, allow your systems to change as well. Flexibility is not a sign of weakness. It is one of the reasons lasting systems continue working year after year. There will still be difficult days. Unexpected setbacks will appear. Plans will occasionally fall apart. You will forget things, make mistakes, and experience seasons when staying organized feels more difficult than usual. None of those moments erase your progress. They simply remind you to return to the systems you've built. Instead of judging yourself during those times, trust your process. Begin with one small action. Organize one space. Complete one important task. Review tomorrow's schedule. Rebuild one healthy habit. Momentum often returns much faster than you expect once you take the first step. Another lesson worth carrying with you is that success is often quiet. Society celebrates dramatic achievements because they are easy to notice, yet the habits that create those achievements are usually invisible. Few people see the weekly planning sessions, the organized workspaces, the prepared mornings, or the thoughtful decisions made behind the scenes. Those quiet systems rarely receive recognition, but they deserve tremendous respect because they make everything else possible. As your systems become stronger, you may notice an unexpected change. You spend less time reacting and more time creating. Problems become easier to solve because your mind is no longer crowded with unnecessary decisions. Opportunities become easier to recognize because your attention is focused instead of scattered. Progress becomes steadier because your actions no longer depend on changing emotions. That is the lasting gift of an organized life. It doesn't simply help you accomplish more. It changes the way you experience each day. Stress becomes easier to manage. Important work receives the attention it deserves. Relationships benefit from your presence instead of your constant distraction. You begin living with greater intention because your systems quietly remove many of the obstacles that once slowed you down. As this audiobook comes to an end, remember that you do not need to transform your entire life in a single week. You only need to build the next system, then strengthen it, then build another. Over time, these small improvements will connect, support one another, and create a life that feels calmer, more productive, and more meaningful than you once believed possible. The future you envision is not created by one extraordinary decision. It is created by thousands of ordinary ones that your systems make easier every single day. So keep refining your routines. Keep simplifying what no longer serves you. Keep protecting your attention, your time, and your energy. Above all, keep believing that every small system you build today is quietly shaping the person you will become tomorrow. That is how organized lives are created. That is how productive lives endure. And that is how lasting success is built, one thoughtful system at a time. Conclusion. The life you want is not waiting for a burst of motivation. It is waiting for a better system. Throughout this audiobook, you've discovered that organization is far more than keeping a tidy desk or maintaining a full calendar. It is the quiet art of removing unnecessary friction so your time, attention, and energy can be invested where they matter most. Every chapter has pointed toward one simple truth. Lasting productivity is never built by working harder every single day. It is built by designing systems that make the right actions easier to repeat. Think about how different your life could feel a year from now if the small systems you've learned became part of your everyday routine. Imagine waking up with a clear plan instead of uncertainty. Imagine working without constant distractions, managing your finances with confidence, keeping your environment organized, and ending each day knowing you've made meaningful progress. None of these changes require perfection. They only require consistency. Remember that every system begins small. One organized drawer becomes an organized room. One planned morning becomes a productive week. One healthy habit becomes a healthier lifestyle. One thoughtful financial decision becomes long-term security. Great transformations are rarely dramatic in the beginning. They are quiet, almost invisible, because they are built one simple action at a time. There will be days when your routine is interrupted. You will face unexpected challenges, changing priorities, and moments when life feels overwhelming. Don't let those moments convince you that you've failed. Every organized life includes setbacks. The difference is that organized people know how to return to their systems instead of abandoning them. They don't chase perfection. They protect progress. As you move forward, keep asking yourself one important question whenever you encounter frustration. What system could make this easier? That single question has the power to change the way you approach every challenge. Instead of relying on memory, you'll build reminders. Instead of depending on motivation, you'll create routines. Instead of solving the same problems again and again, you'll design systems that prevent those problems from returning. Never underestimate the power of small improvements. A 1% improvement today may seem insignificant, but those improvements compound over weeks, months, and years. Eventually, you'll look back and realize that the life which once felt stressful and disorganized has quietly become calm, intentional, and productive, not because of one life-changing moment, but because of hundreds of small systems working together. Above all, remember that systems are not the destination. They are the bridge. They exist to give you more freedom, more clarity, more confidence, and more time for the people, goals, and experiences that truly matter. An organized life is not about filling every hour with work. It is about creating enough order that you can fully enjoy the life you're building. So begin today. Choose one system. Build it carefully. Improve it patiently. Trust it completely. Then build the next one. With every thoughtful system you create, you are not simply organizing your schedule, you are shaping your future. Your life will always reflect the systems you repeat. Make them intentional, make them simple, and make them worthy of the future you envision. The path to an organized and productive life is no longer a mystery. It begins with one decision, continues with one system, and grows stronger every single day.